Hi, welcome back to RC Tank Workshop. I'm John. In this video I'll show you how to set up the torsion bar suspension unit in the Tiger 1. I'll also start detailing the lower hull, including adding more weld lines and making parts to add more detail. First of all, a big thank you to everybody who's subscribed so far. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and help support the channel. Here you can see I've stripped out everything from the hull to show you how the suspension works. It's a torsion bar suspension system just like the real Tiger. The kit comes with two differences of torsion bar, and there's 8 of each. You'll need to make up 4 different types of axle sets and torsion bars. For the 5.5mm torsion bars, you have 4 short axles, 4 long axles. For the 5mm torsion bars, you'll have again 4 short and 4 long axles. For identifying the torsion bar retainers, Armortek on the 5mm bars, they have an extra hole to mark them. The 5.5mm don't have that. The positions are as follows. First axle on the left hand side is a 5.5mm torsion bar on a long axle. The next one is a 5.5mm torsion bar on a short axle. Then we have a 5mm torsion bar on a long axle, a 5mm torsion bar on a short axle, a 5mm torsion bar on a long axle, a 5mm torsion bar on a short axle, a 5.5mm torsion bar with a long axle, and a 5.5mm torsion bar with a short axle. That's positions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. On the other side of the vehicle, starting at position 1, we have a 5.5mm torsion bar with a long axle, a 5.5mm torsion bar and a short axle, a 5mm torsion bar and a long axle, a 5mm torsion bar and a short axle, a 5mm torsion bar and a long axle, a 5mm torsion bar and a short axle, a 5.5mm torsion bar and a long axle, and a 5.5mm torsion bar and a short axle. For many builders, when they're setting up the suspension, change these grub screws, they're M4 grub screws, to M4 cap heads. The M4 cap head will give much more purchase for tightening up these screws. Using the M4 cap heads, it's less likely to strip the socket. The suspension needs to be set up at an angle of 30 degrees. You can make some sort of jig. I'm using a 30-degree angle here. And you can see I've set the angles to 30 degrees. These screws here are for adjusting the angle of the torsion bar. And these screws need to be really tight. So get your adjustment and check it twice. You can see on the left side of the vehicle, the suspension is sloping towards the front. Whereas the right side of the vehicle, the suspension slopes to the rear. To set suspension angle, for instance number 4 axle, I adjust the grub screws onto the flat of the torsion bar. These torsion bars came with a flat ground onto them. The older style torsion bars in the older kit, you had to grind the flat on yourself, but these ones came with a flat. My angle is supporting the arm at 30 degrees. Here's the torsion bar for number 4 axle. And here's the retention point. So now I'll tighten the grub screws onto the flat on this side. Then, at this point, the adjustment screw should still be loose. So with my angle in place on the swing arm, I'll now tighten this really tightly. And once it's tight, that should hold the axle on the other side at 30 degrees. And I'll check again to make sure it hasn't moved and adjust again if necessary. So here we are at the underside of the hull. I've got my suspension at 30 degrees. Now that I'm happy that it's tightened up, I've started to fill the holes. These are the adjuster holes. Before filling the holes with filler, I've jammed some paper inside the cup. This will make it easier if I do have to access them again to remove the filler. I've started on the fillet piece. The kit doesn't include any section here, so I'm making the part to go in. I'll have to add rivet detail all along this as well. I've added these pieces, they're not part of the kit. These represent the internal shock absorbers that were fitted to each of the rear swing arms and front swing arms. So I have one here, another one at the front. This is front right hand side, rear right hand side. Front left and rear left. They're not mirror images, so they're in different locations left and right. Here are the completed fillets for underneath the hull. I've drilled them out with a 3mm drill. I'm using copper rivets. They're just for effect. So once I put the copper rivets in, I glue them in and then I file them flat. I've left a hole at each end and one in the middle. They'll be fastened to the hull with M3 button head screws. I drill into the hull where I'm going to place the screws and I've tapped them for M3. Here's one fillet in place. You can see where the screws are tapped in, and I've also put glue underneath as well. Next will be to add the fake welds and maybe fill up the gap along here. I'll probably change these cap heads for button heads and that will finish it. Next task will be to fill these holes. These were filled with a type of a flat rivet or maybe a tapered bolt. So I'll fill the hole in a little bit and then just push just to leave the round mark but not such a big hole. I'm missing some parts from here. There is a large track deflector that fits here. I don't have the part, so I'll have to make that for next time. The purpose of the track pin deflector is that if a track pin works its way loose and starts to pull back out as the track rotates, it hits against the track pin deflector and the deflector knocks the track pin back into place. I'm sure the crews check their track pins regularly, but if it happens while driving, this will at least stop a catastrophe. Here you can see the fillet detail fully painted. I've also filled in these holes partly. Rivet detail. I will fill these holes in the button head screws. Here you can see the suspension parts. Some more weld detail. I hope you like the parts I've added. I'd like to add a set of super detailed bump stops as well, but hobby budget won't allow that at the moment. I'll have to either make my own or save a bit longer. Although the parts won't be seen easily once completed, I am keeping a record on photo and video, so I'll always have that. I'll always see them in that way. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. See you again soon. I'll put up a video here, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you.